Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. I hope you all are fine and must be busy with your work. Today we have our lecture number 26 for the subject of operations management. And again class, today we will discuss a very important topic, that is project management, and we will discuss that what should be the different activities to be performed in project management. But before discussing our today's topic, let's have a brief review what we discussed in the last class. Students, in the last class we discussed about the forecasting, and I explained you that forecasting is the process of predicting our future. Mostly the different managers, and especially the operations manager, always interested in the forecast of the different values like demand, supply, profit, cost, price of bonds, price of other stocks. So in all of these cases, they are always interested to have a sort of forecast. So this technique helps us to predict some future value on the basis of some historical data, and maybe the managers can use their own observations and experience in order to have a forecast for the future. And we discussed that there are three types of forecast with respect to the time horizon. There may be the short-term forecast, mid-term forecast, and long-term forecast. The short-term forecast have this time span of up to 1 year, and medium-term forecast have the time span of 1 to 3 years, and long-term forecast have the time span of 3 to 5 years or above. Then there are different steps in forecasting, and we discussed that it is very important as a first step to define the purpose of the forecast, that why we are doing the forecast. So after defining the purpose, it is very important to also define that whether we are interested in the short-term forecast, or we are interested in medium-term forecast, or we are interested in long-term forecast. So after defining the time horizon about the different forecasts, the next step we'll have to find out the appropriate technique to be used for forecasting. And after deciding the technique, what we will do, we will gather the data, we will analyze the data, and after this data analysis we will make the certain forecasts, and finally we will implement these forecasts, and then we'll have to have an evaluation whether these forecasts are being able to achieve our predetermined objectives or not, and accordingly we can take some corrective actions. So these are the different steps which are involved in the process of forecasting. Then students, we also discussed different types of forecasts, and we discussed that there are two broad categories of forecasting, that is the qualitative forecasting and quantitative forecasting. In qualitative forecasting, we discussed about the expert opinion, about the nominal group technique, and the Delphi technique. Now these are the sort of judgment forecasting in which we can take the opinion from the different experts, and we can have a source of consensus in order to achieve the particular forecast. So these are the qualitative methods of forecasting. Then we also discussed some important approaches we can use in quantitative forecasting. And quantitative forecasting, you know, that is the forecasting which is based on some particular facts, some data, and especially the statistical calculations and mathematical calculations. So we can use the different methods for quantitative forecasting. We discussed about the time series forecasting, that how we can use the average method in order to calculate the forecast for the future. We discussed about the moving average method. Then we also discussed about the weighted moving average method. Then we also discussed another type of weighted moving average method, that is exponential smoothing. Then students, we also discussed two very important concepts, that is the correlation and regression, and we defined that what is the difference between correlation and regression. That correlation only measures the strength of relationship between the two variables, while regression actually measures the cause and effect relationship between the two variables. So we also discussed that how these two steps can be helpful for forecasting. So this was a brief review what we discussed in the last class. Okay students, in our today's class, again, as I told you, that we will discuss about the project management. We will define the project, that what are the characteristics of the project, and what is the difference between project and a program. That is also so important. Then we will define what is project management, and we will discuss the different tools and the techniques which the operations manager or the project manager can use in order to manage their projects. Then we will discuss some important methods and models on the basis of which the project manager or the operation manager can select the particular projects. Then we will also discuss the different steps in a project life cycle, that how the project starts and through what stages a project passes up to the termination of a particular project. Then students will also discuss the difference in the responsibilities of the project manager and the functional manager. Then there can be the different types of project organizations. We will also discuss about the different types and their relevant advantages and disadvantages. Then students, of course, we will discuss the importance and benefits of project management, that why it is necessary for the operations manager and the project manager in order to follow the different approaches and techniques to better manage their projects. Then in the end, we will also discuss some important causes which can lead a project to failure. So we will also discuss these important causes of failure of the different projects. So this is the brief outline, students, what we discuss in our today's class. So what is a project? A project is an investment activity. Now students, this definition is very important, that usually we say that a project is interrelated with that sort of investment, and sometimes we say that whenever there is an investment, we should have a project, and whenever we have a project we should require an investment. So in this way the project and the investment are interrelated with each other, and sometimes we define the project as it is an investment activity which is economically viable, technically sound, financially profitable, managerially efficient, socially acceptable, and institutionally desirable. So actually all of these factors relate to the different feasibilities of the project, that the project should be strong and it should be viable economically, financially, managerially, socially, culturally. So there are too many aspects we should have to see about a project. So we can also say that projects are the building blocks of an investment plan. So students, in this particular definition, we are relating the project to the investment activity, and always the different projects are related to any sort of investment activity, and we have to manage this investment activity in a way that it can serve our different objectives like economic objectives, technical objectives, financial objectives, managerial objectives, as well as the social objectives. So these objectives of the project are so important to be achieved at the end of the project. Students, we can also define project in this way, that it is a sequence of unique, complex and connected activities having one goal or purpose to be achieved within time, within budget, and according to the specification. Again students, this is a very important definition of a project, and this definition actually tells us about the different characteristics of the project, and it also shows us that what are the different activities which are actually involved in a particular project, and which differentiates actually a project to a process or some procedure. So let's discuss this definition in detail. In this particular definition, there are some points which are so important, like project is the sequence of unique activities, complex activities, connected activities, having single goal or purpose, and to be achieved within time, within budget, and according to the specification. And sometimes we refer these three factors as the triple constraints of the project. So sometimes we say that every project has the triple constraints, that is the cost, budget, and quality. That is, it should be according to the specification, or it should meet the predetermined requirements of quality. So let's discuss this definition in detail. Now, what is meant by unique activities? The project is not the name of some simple activities or some repetitive activities. It is the name of always the unique activities. And sometimes we say about the projects that projects are never happened before, and the projects will never happen again under the same terms and conditions. So this is unique with respect to the project, that project always have the unique activities and non-repetitive activities, not very simple activities actually. Then project is composed of complex activities. Again, these are not the simple activities and not the repetitive activities or not the trivial activities, but this is the name of the complex activities and not the name of the daily activities or the routine activities. Then third important point, that the project is composed of interconnected activities. Now this interconnection between the activities is so important, and again we say about the project that the inputs of some of the activities are the outputs of some other activities, and the outputs of some other activities are the inputs of some other activities. So project is always composed of these interconnected activities. Again students, a project should always have a single goal and purpose to be achieved. Now this is the point which differentiates a project from the program. Program may have the different objectives or the purposes, but the project should ideally have a single goal or purpose to be achieved at the end of the project. So project should always have a single goal or purpose to be achieved. Then specified time, the project should always be completed within the specified time period. Then within budget, the project should always be completed within the prescribed budget, and the resources should be efficiently utilized in achieving the objectives of the project. And again, according to the specification, that is, the project should meet the requirements of the quality and the customer requirements. So these are referred as the triple constraints of the project, that the project should be completed within time, within budget, and according to the specification and according to the customer requirements. So student, this is a very important definition of project, and as we said that project should always be completed within time, within budget, and according to the specification. But students, if you see the different projects in Pakistan or outside Pakistan, there are rare projects which are completed 100% within time, within budget, or 100% according to the specification which have been defined at the benchmarking or the planning stage. Now still we call them projects. The reason is, when the project starts, it has a particular life cycle, and suppose that after 4 months there is an uncertain event which you were not expecting. So after that particular event, what the project manager or the operations manager should do, he should have revised all of his benchmarks related to the time, related to the budget, and related to the specification, so that they may have some modified benchmarks So this is very important that throughout the life cycle of the project manager and the operation manager should have the review of all the different benchmarks, especially related to the time, related to the budget, and related to the specification or quality. So that's why we say that a project actually completes within time, within budget, and according to the specification. Then students, program. A program is different from a project. Programs are larger in scope and comprise multiple projects. As I said, that projects always have a unique purpose, have a single purpose to be achieved at the end of the project, but program may have more than one purposes, and sometimes we say that program is composed of many projects. And if you see the hierarchy in the project organizations, you can see that the program manager is at the top, and under that program manager there may be the different project managers. So a program may be composed of more than one projects, and that is larger in scope than that of the project. So in this way we can differentiate between the project and program. So the students, again, as I told you, that it is very important for the different projects that these projects should be completed within the specified cost, within the predetermined time, and the resources in order to achieve the different objectives of the project should be optimally utilized. So these again are the three important parameters to be achieved for the different projects. And again, when we evaluate the different projects, and the success of the different projects actually depends on the efficient achievement of the project objectives. With respect to all of these parameters, that is, we will have to see that whether we are being able to achieve the project objectives according to our estimated cost, or whether we are achieving the objectives within the prescribed time period, and how much resources are to be utilized in order to achieve the objectives of the project. So these three are the different parameters of the project, and again, for every project we'll have to see that how much we are being able to achieve the objectives related to these important parameters of the project. Then students, you can see this triangle. Again, we are talking about the three constraints or three parameters, that is the cost, budget, time, and resources. And again, these three factors, that is time, cost, and resources, actually determine the scope and the quality of the project. Whenever we want to have a sort of trade-off between the scope and quality of the project, we will have to have a trade-off between these three parameters or the factors of the project. So these three factors, that is cost, time, and resources, actually define the scope of the project, breadth and the domain of the project, as well as the quality of the project. Students, projects can be classified in many ways. One of the classification we can make for the projects is the social sector projects and infrastructure projects. And again, the transportation projects involves the construction of the different highways, then airports. Similarly, as far as the utilities, and especially public utilities, are concerned, electric power projects, telephone installment projects. And education wise, if we see the different projects, the construction of the different schools and colleges are the examples of the different projects. Similarly, if we talk about the public safety, the police related projects, then fire brigades installation and the related projects. Similarly, recreational activities like building of parks, playgrounds, then development projects like irrigation, development of dams, and research projects, health related projects, and agriculture, space projects. In defense projects, you can have the different military equipment projects and the related system projects. So all these are the different types of the projects. So if we broadly divide these different projects, we can divide them in the two broad categories, that is the social sector projects and infrastructure projects. Social sector projects have the objectives of for a particular society to be achieved, and infrastructure projects objective is to provide the infrastructure to the industry, to the citizens, and so this is the way we can have the classification of the different projects. So students, after defining the project and after we have discussed that what are the important characteristics of a project, we'll have to define that what is the project management, and we can define the project management as the scientific application of modern tools and techniques. Now again students, this scientific application is so important. You must remember in our very beginning lectures I told you about the importance of scientific decisions, and how we can make the decisions on the basis of the certain facts and figures. So that is the more scientific decision, and if we are making the decisions on the basis of the certain observations or the experience, so that decision will have least importance, because there may be the biasness in these sort of decisions. So project management actually involves the scientific application of the different modern tools and techniques in planning, organizing, staffing, directing, financing, controlling, reporting, budgeting the different unique activities or tasks in order to achieve the particular goal or objective within the triple constraints of the project, that is time, cost and quality. So this is the definition of the project, that will have to apply the different tools. Of course we will discuss in our today's lecture that what are these tools which can be used for all their planning, organizing, staffing purposes, and the scientific application of all of these tools in order to manage the different activities of the unique projects, so that we can achieve our predetermined objectives within the triple constraints of the project, again time, cost and quality. So this is the project management. Again, the art of using management tools and skills for managing and controlling the company resources for a given investment activity. So again students, as I told you that projects are directly related to an investment activity, and we say that projects are the building blocks of an investment activity actually. So we'll have to use the different management tools and skills in order to manage and control the different company resources. Now again students, this is very important, that in order to achieve the predetermined objectives of the project, we'll have to utilize the organizational resources optimally and efficiently and effectively, so that we can achieve our desired accomplishments or goals and objectives within time, within budget, and according to the requirements of the customers and according to the predetermined specification. So this is another very important definition of project management. As you can see from this definition, that project management actually includes all the activities of the management, that is planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, budgeting, financing, related to the project, so that we can achieve our predetermined objectives. Students, there are some tools and techniques we usually use in managing our projects. The most important tool is PERT CPM, that is Program Evaluation Review Technique, and Critical Path Method Technique. In today's lecture or in next lecture, we will discuss this particular technique in detail. PERT is actually a network technique in which we formulate a sort of network which defines the interconnection between the different activities of the project. And again, after discussing the different steps of PERT technique, I told you that how we will be able to draw all the activities of the project in the form of a network or in the form of a diagram, and that diagram will help us to find out the critical path method, that is, what is the longest period of the completion of the project, and that will actually be the optimum time period within which we can achieve our projects. And again, this CPM method will also guide us about the most critical activities of the project. Another important technique we can use in project management, that is the linear responsibility charts. Linear responsibility charts are the different charts which helps us to assign the different jobs to the different human resources within the organization by using the different legends, or by using the different graphical or tabular techniques, so that everyone in the organization may have the idea that what to report and whom to report. Then again, Gantt charts tells us about the different activities in the form of a chart, that at what particular time period the certain activity of the project will start, at what time period it will be ended. Then work breakdown structures again is a very important tool we can use in project management, which helps us to break down the overall work into the task, into the different activities, then into the subtasks, so that we can assign the different resources accordingly for the different work patterns in the organization. JERT is another technique which is abbreviated as a graphical evaluation review technique, and this is a graphical technique again to review the different projects. Then students, there are different project management softwares available in the market which can always help us to apply all of these different tools in order to better manage the projects. One of the important project management software available in the market is the MS Project, and this is a very important software which can always help you people to apply the different project management activities, and of course it guides us to better manage the projects in your organizations. Okay, students, project selection models. Project selection models actually guides us about the different methods which can be used by the different project managers in order to decide about the particular projects, and in order to select that which project should be carried out by the organization and which project should not be carried out. There are two broad models or methods which are used in order to select the different projects, and one is the non-numeric models. As you can see from its name, that it is non-numeric, and that is not based on some numerical values or some calculations, but it is based on the judgment or the experience or the observations of the experts or the project managers or the operations managers. So this is a qualitative technique which can be used in order to select the different projects. There is another broad category and method which can be helpful in selecting the different projects, and this is referred as numeric models of the projects. Now again, numeric models is the quantitative technique for the selection of the different projects, in which we can use the different mathematical, financial or statistical calculations in order to select the different projects. So let's discuss the different methods which we can use in non-numeric models. The first method we can use is the sacred cow. The sacred cow means the top management in any organization will decide about the selection of the particular project, and whatever is being decided by the top manager or the chief executive of the organization, that will be carried out as a project. So sacred cow is a sort of method for the selection of the projects, in which the top manager or the executive will have the authority for the selection of the particular project. The second method is the operating necessity. Now students, in this particular method or model, sometimes it becomes the operating necessity to initiate the particular projects in the organizations. अगर कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कोई प्रोजेक्ट्स इनिशिएट नहीं करेगी तो इट मीन्स दे कैन नॉट बी ऑपरेटेड मोर इन फ्यूचर. सो समटाइम्स इन ऑर्डर टू फुलफिल द ऑपरेटिंग कैपेसिटी एंड ऑपरेटिंग नेसेसिटी for their products and services, they will have to carry out the different projects. So if any organization is being faced in this sort of situation, and that is the operating necessity, they of course will carry out the different projects. The third method, again this is the qualitative method we are talking about for the selection of the different projects, is the competitive necessity method. In competitive necessity method, students, the project manager will compare your own operations and projects with respect to your competitors, and accordingly they may find it feasible that they should carry out the different projects in order to be competitive in the market. So in order to meet the particular competitive requirement, the managers or the organizations will have to carry out and will have to select the different projects. The next method is the product line extension method. Students, this is again the qualitative method for the selection of the different projects. In this particular method, again, mostly the different organizations are interested in the extension of their products and the product lines. In order to make this modification or extension in their products and product lines, they will have to carry out the different projects. So this sort of method in which the projects are being performed or carried out to extend the different products and product lines in the organization, that method may be referred as the product line extension method. Then again, the next method is comparative benefit model. Again, students, in order to have the comparative benefits with respect to the different competitors, the organizations may carry out the different projects. So again, students, all of these methods are related to the qualitative judgments about the selection of the different projects, and these are the different factors or these are the different methods which can be used by the organization in order to select a particular project. But the most important method for the project selection are these numeric methods or quantitative methods. Now, one of the factors which can be used in order to select the different projects is the payback period. Now again, payback period is a sort of financial parameter which can help us in the selection of the different projects. Payback period is actually the time period in which the capital investment of the project is being recovered after the generation of the different revenues. So on the basis of payback period, we can always select a particular project among the number of the different projects. Then again, we can always use the method of NPV and benefit cost ratio, that is BCR ratio, in order to select the projects. In our next lecture, we will use these particular methods, that is NPV, net present value, and cost benefit ratio, and I will tell you that how we can use these particular methods in order to decide a particular project among the different alternative projects. And of course, in this NPV method and benefit cost ratio method, we use the discounting method in order to compute these particular values. Then another parameter which can be helpful for the selection of the different projects is IRR, that is internal rate of return, and this is a rate of return which helps us to equate the different aggregated discounted benefits and aggregated discounted cost. And again, class, we will discuss this particular aspect as well when we will discuss the financial analysis of the different projects. So these are the different important methods or parameters which can always be used by the different project managers in order to select the particular project. So students, sometimes we also define the projects as that the project is something which always have a starting point and which always have a ending point. The project life cycle consists of the different steps, Now among these steps are the conception and the selection of the projects. Now this step is very important. Now in this particular step we have just discussed that the project manager will see that what particular method they can use in order to select the different projects. They can use the qualitative method, or they can also use the quantitative method for the selection of the different projects. Then the next step is planning, project planning. Again, in the project planning you'll have to define out the roadmap, that from where to start and how to do up to the end of the project. Then again, implementation is important. We'll have to implement the project. Then again, we'll have to control the project, and we'll have to find out the deviation between the actual performance and the desired performance. And again, we'll have to take the corrective actions, that how we can make the improvement in future. Then finally, the project evaluation is also important, and that will guide us that how much we are able to achieve the predetermined objectives of the projects. And at the end, the projects are finally terminated. So these are all the different steps involved in the project life cycle. The most important step, students, in the project management is project planning. And again, you know very well about the planning, that project planning is actually a projective course of action in order to achieve the predetermined objectives of the organization. That is, it is a complete roadmap to go from the starting point to the ending point of the project. And the project planning is a rational determination of how to initiate, sustain and terminate a project. So this is very important, that project planning defines the clear roadmap and rational determination that how we should initiate, sustain and terminate the project. Then again, the project planning starts with a clear vision, that is the ability to see something that is invisible to others. So there should always be a vision before the organizations and before the project managers, that what are the long-term objectives they want to achieve at the end of this project. So this is very important, that you should have a long-term roadmap, that how you can achieve the different predetermined objectives. So again, class, 5 W's, as you may have learned about the planning, that what to do, when to do, how it will be done, why it should be done. That is so important in that planning, and project planning actually gives us the answers for all of these questions. At the planning stage, students, there is also another very important point, that we can make the different benchmarks right at the planning stage, so that when the project is started and is progressed in the future, we can compare the actual performance of the projects with respect to these benchmarks, which should have been made at the planning stage. So this is again one of the importance of that project planning. Now, what are the other important points related to the project planning? Project planning also helps us to eliminate or reduce the uncertainty. Now, students, this is a very important point, that the basic purpose of planning is actually to reduce the uncertainty, and with the help of planning, we actually can make our future more safe. So the basic purpose of planning is to reduce the risk and uncertainty for the future. And again, there are two thoughts about the planning. One school of thought is that you should immediately start the project and let's see what happens in the future. And there is another school of thought that you should be very careful while you are planning for a project, and you should give the proper time for the project planning, so that you will be able to better manage the different activities in future. And this second school of thought, students, is always right, that we should give the due importance to the project planning, because that will always help us to reduce the risk and uncertainty related to the different projects in future. So project planning actually helps us to improve the efficiency of the different operations, and it also helps us to understand the objectives attainment, that how we can achieve the predetermined objectives of the project in an efficient and in effective manner. Then again, as I told you, that this project planning always provides a basis for monitoring and controlling work. So that's why it is always recommended to prepare the different benchmarks about the different project achievements at the planning stage, so that you can always compare these benchmarks with your actual progress of the project, so that you can have the idea that how well you are going with respect to a particular project. So this is the importance of planning, and again the project managers and the operation managers should give the due importance to this very first but most important stage of project management. So students, as I discussed that these are the different processes or steps related to the project life cycle. That is, we'll have to initiate the process after the selection of the proper project. Then again there are the different planning activities, and after the planning activities you have to execute the different process, and during the planning and execution activities there should be the controlling process in order to find out the deviation between the actual performance and the desired performance, and accordingly you can take the corrective actions in order to minimize this deviation that is so important. And finally the project is to be closed down or terminated. So this is the example that how we actually carry out the project and what are the different stages which are involved in the project life cycle. Now students, what are the important project planning considerations? Usually it is the general perception among the different managers that project planning is only concerned with some of the techniques like PERT, CPM and Gantt charts. But it is again a misperception. Project planning is many more than that. The project planning is much wider activity with following key considerations, that is cost estimation and budgeting, technology strategies, scheduling, specifications of deliverables, resource usage estimation, delineation of the organization structure, information and control system design. So project planning is actually the name of so many activities, and all these activities are as important as PERT, CPM and Gantt charts. Now project planning should always be able to have the different cost estimates, then different budgeting activities. Then it can always be involved in the efficient utilization of the resources, that is how the different organization resources can be effectively and efficiently utilized in future while you are carrying out the different project. Then again students, the organization structure is so important when you are carrying out the different projects, and you will have to have a sort of structure within the organization which can always be helpful in the achievement of the objectives of the project. So project planning involves all of these activities actually. Then students, again project control and evaluation is as important as the project planning, and what we usually do in this controlling and evaluation, we find out the different discrepancies which are usually referred as variances. And if you recall your lecture about the managing quality, I told you that variance is something which is the enemy of management. You know, whenever there is more variation of something, that will not be liked by the different managers. So these discrepancies are actually the variations, and we are always interested to find out these discrepancies and the variances. And then again we are always interested to find out the methods that how we can improve these discrepancies and variance. The acceptable levels of variance should be determined at the outset of the project. So this project planning and evaluation helps us to find out the limits within which we can operate a particular project. Then controlling also focus on the details of what is occurring in the project, whereas evaluation is more concerned with the big picture. So evaluation is broader in scope, and it actually involves the examination and evaluation of the overall project after the project is being ended. And we can also say that project evaluation is a one-time activity which is actually done at the end of the project, while the project controlling is an ongoing activity, and we can always periodically do that project controlling. Controlling activities are the responsibility of the project manager, while the evaluations are typically carried out by an individual or group not directly working on the project. So that is another difference between the project controlling and project evaluation, that the project controlling is actually the responsibility of the project manager, and it is a sort of continuous process which has to be carried out throughout the life time of the project. But the project evaluation is actually a one-time activity which should be carried out by some independent party, so that they can give their fair opinion about the health of that project. So students, project manager is the key person who is basically responsible for the project from cradle to grave. So he is actually responsible for each and every aspect of the project, right from the start of the project till the termination of the particular project. So this person will take the responsibility for the planning, implementation, and then finally the completion of the project. The project manager can be chosen and installed as soon as the project is selected for funding or at any earlier point. Okay students, what happens in most of the projects that you start the project, and during that project time you are going to select the different project managers, which is the wrong approach. The project manager should be selected and should be involved right from the conception and the selection stage of the project. So it is very important. Project manager is chosen late in the project life cycle, usually to replace another project manager. So again, this is a misperception, and the project manager should always be involved right from the first stage of the project life cycle. The project manager's first set of tasks is typically to prepare a preliminary budget and schedule to help the select people to serve on the project team, and to get to know the client to make sure the proper facilities are available. So all these are the different responsibilities of the project manager, and the project manager's job is not so simple. As I told you, that he is responsible for all the activities right from the start of the project till the end of the project, and he is responsible for that scheduling, he is responsible for planning, he is responsible for controlling and taking the corrective actions about the different projects, and most importantly, he is responsible for the efficient and effective utilization of the different resources. So the project manager's job is not so simple. Let's discuss some of the responsibilities of the project manager. He is responsible to complete the project within time, within budget, and according to specification. That is again to complete the project within the triple constraints. He should act as an intermediary between the top management and project team. So he should serve as a bridge between the top management and the project team. Then he should obtain the feedback for the learning lessons. He should train and educate the different project staff. So students, these are some of the important responsibilities of the project. Now these are some of the characteristics of the project manager, that he should be a mature person, that is experienced person. He should be calm, and he should be handle the different situations. He should handle the different conflicts that may occur during the project lifetime, and he should be aggressive person. He should be having the ability to take the very important decisions. He should always have the good terms with the top management, and that is a very important point for the project success. Most importantly, the project manager should be a journalist. He should not be or may not be a specialist, but he should be journalist. He should know something of everything, you know. He should know about the marketing, operations, the quality, technical things, administrative things, interpersonal skills. He should not be specialist in any one of these, but he should know some of the all of these things. So he is actually a journalist. He should have the technical and administrative capabilities. He should be a sensitive person, sensitive in the sense that he should be able to identify and solve the particular problems which may occur during the lifetime of the project. Then he should be able that how to deal with the people and how to motivate the people in order to achieve the different project objectives. Again, he should be a good leader, and he should have the inspiring capability to achieve the predetermined objectives of the project. He should always be aware of the different ethics principles, so that he should be able to create an environment within the organization which is ethical and which is also good for the achievement of the project objectives. So these are some of the characteristics of the project manager. Let's discuss some of the differences between functional manager and the project manager. Functional manager is in charge of one of the firm's functional departments like marketing, quality control or finance. Such department heads are usually specialists in the areas they manage. So students, functional managers are actually the specialist, and he should know about the details of their own field, but project manager should be a generalist. He should know about something of everything, and he may not be a specialist in a particular field, but he must aware of all of these fields. Functional managers are analytically oriented, and they know something of the details of each operation for which they are responsible. They know how to analyze and attack a problem, so the detailed and in-depth problem analysis is the responsibility of the functional manager, not the project manager. A project manager, by contrast, is usually a generalist with a wide background of experience and knowledge. A project manager must oversee many functional areas, so he should be a sort of generalist, having the knowledge of different fields. May not be the in-depth knowledge, but some knowledge should always be there. Project manager has an ability to put many pieces of tasks together to form a coherent whole. So that is very important. He should have a synergetic environment within the organization, and that is the responsibility of the project manager actually. Project manager must be more skilled at synthesis. Functional managers must be more skilled at analysis. So analyzing a particular problem is the responsibility of the functional manager, not the project manager. Functional manager uses the analytical approach, and the project manager uses the systems approach. So the project manager is actually responsible for the running of the different projects like a system in which everything is being connected with every other thing. So that is very important, and this is a way we can differentiate between the functional managers and project managers. So students, let's discuss the different types of project organizations. One of the type is functional organization. In this type of organization, project is made a part of one of the functional division of the firm. Now what happens in some of the organizations, that the project is being made a part of any of the functional department of the organization, and that particular department is actually responsible for carrying out the particular project. Now there are some advantages as well as disadvantages for these type of organizations. For these functional organizations, there will be the maximum flexibility in the use of the staff, because you know that the organization already have the staff in the different functional departments, so they can always be flexible for the utilization of their staff, which is already been there in the organization. Individual experts can be utilized by many different projects. Specialists in the division can be grouped to share knowledge and experience. Then the functional division contains the normal path of advancement for the individuals whose expertise is in the functional area. So students, these are some of the advantages of functional organizations. There are some disadvantages as well. Client is not the focus of activity and concern. Now this is a very important point, that in most of the functional organizations, the client may not get the due importance, which is so important in project management, because the different functions are already working in their respective environments, and when the project is being made the part of some of the department, then you know that department may have the dual responsibility, and they may not 100% focus on the requirements of the clients. Functional division tends to be oriented towards the activities particular to its function. So this is the point, that they are more oriented sometimes towards their original functions, and they may not give due importance to the projects and the requirements of their clients. So this is one of the disadvantages of functional organizations. Occasionally in the functionally organized projects, no individual is given full responsibility for the project. Students, this is again a very important point. You know, when the project is made the part of some department, there may be the department head, and again at the same time there may be the project manager or project head. So the responsibilities is being divided among these two different bosses, and in management sometimes we say whenever there are two bosses there will be the clash, and that is always not good. So this is also a problem in case of functional organizations. Response to the client needs is slow and arduous, as we have already discussed it, that they may not have give the due importance to their client requirements. Project issues that are directly within the interest area of the functional home may be dealt with carefully, but those outside normal interest areas may be given short shift, if not totally ignored. So the functional managers or the related staff may be more concerned with their functional activities rather than the project oriented activities. Motivation of the people assigned to the project tends to be weak, so there may be less motivation, again due to the division of the different responsibilities within the functions as well as with respect to the projects. So these are some of the disadvantages of functional organizations. Another type of the project organization is the pure project organization. The project is separated from the rest of the parent system. So this is a type of project system in which the project actually becomes a self-contained unit with its own technical staff, with its own administration, and tied to the parent department as well. And there are some advantages of these pure project organizations. That is, the project manager has full line authority over the project. So that was not the case with respect to that functional organizations, in which the responsibility was divided among the functional managers as well as the project managers. But in this particular case, all the responsibilities are and the authorities are being given to the project manager. So this is the example, students, for the pure project organizations, that there may be the different projects which may have the different departments, and these projects may work under the different program managers. So all the different projects have the different departments, you can see from this diagram. In the pure project organizations, again, the lines of communications are shortened and project manager communicates directly with senior corporate management. So there is always improvement in communication in these type of organizations. Again, unity of command helps the improvement in communication, and authority is centralized, and the ability to make swift decisions is greatly enhanced, again, in the pure project organizations. So students, these are some of the benefits of pure project organizations. Again, there may be some disadvantages as well. When the parent organization takes on several projects, it is common for each one to be fully staffed. This can lead to considerable duplication of efforts. Now again, students, this is a very important point, that in the pure project organizations, every project have its own different departments. So there may be the different duplication of efforts, and again, the different organizational resources may not be optimally utilized. So this is a very important point which should be noted in that particular case of pure project organization. Then project manager may stockpile the equipment and technical assistance in order to be certain that it will be available when needed. So that piling of the stock may also be a sort of disadvantage in case of pure project organization. Then pure project groups seem to foster inconsistency in the way in which policies and procedures are carried out. So students, these are some of the disadvantages of pure project organizations. Then there are some matrix organizations, and matrix organizations actually have the characteristics of some of the pure project organizations and some of the characteristics of functional organizations. So actually the functional organization and the pure project organization are the two extremes, and in between are the matrix organizations, which have the characteristics of both of the functional organization as well as the pure project organizations. This is an example of the matrix organization. You can see that under the program managers, the different project managers are working, and again these project managers can have the main power from the different departments of the parent organization. So these type of organizations, that is the matrix organizations, have the characteristics of both of the pure project organization as well as the functional organizations. These are some of the advantages of matrix organizations. That is, the project is the point of emphasis. Project manager takes the responsibilities for managing the project, for bringing it in time, within cost, and according to the specification. So students, all the advantages of the pure project organization and the functional organization may be there in these matrix organizations. There may be the different disadvantages as well. like the movement of the resources from the project to project in order to satisfy the several schedules, may foster the political infighting among the several project managers. Now what happens in these sort of organizations, that when the different project managers are working under the different organizations, they start fighting with each other for the acquiring the different resources of the organization. So this is a situation which is which can be a sort of conflict among the different project managers. Then again, for strong matrices, problems associated with shutting down a project are almost as severe as those in pure project organizations. So when the project is to be shut down or terminated, it may be a problem that how the different resources of that particular project will be distributed, whether these resources will be distributed to the other projects, or these resources will be taken by the parent organization. So again, there may be a sort of dispute. Division of authority and responsibility inherent in matrix management is complex. So again, it is not always easy to assign the authority and responsibility within the matrix organizations. Students, let's discuss about the importance and benefits of the project management. Now again, one of the most important point related to the project management is that it makes the investment activity economically viable, technically sound, financially profitable, managerially efficient, socially acceptable, and institutionally desirable. So it is a very important point for the projects, that it will always ensure a particular investment activity feasible with respect to all of these important parameters. Then it aims at achieving specific goals and objectives. Then it aims to complete the investment activity within the triple constraints, as we have already discussed, that is within time, within budget, and according to the specification. These are the most important parameters which are to be achieved in the project management. Then the project management is essential for complex project needs, coordination of multiple people, multiple resources, multiple tasks, and multiple decision points. Now students, this point is again very important. As I told you that project management is not a very simple thing, and also the responsibilities of the project manager are not so simple, and he will have to have a lot of effort in order to coordinate among the different people, among the different resources, and among the different tasks. And again, he will have to have the ability to make the multiple decisions at the different decision points. So in that sense, if we have more coordination in that project management, it will always be helpful in achieving the predetermined objectives of the project. Then project management provides a means for solving the different problems. Again, as I discussed, that one of the important parameter of any project is that it should be able to achieve the predetermined quality. That is, every project should be able to meet the customer requirements. So again, due to this focus on quality as its important constraint, the project management always helps to increase the customer satisfaction and quality. Project management allows people to make good company decisions. It ensures better return on investment. Now this is again a very important point, students. All the activities of the project management, if these activities are well coordinated and well managed, it will always ensure the increase in profitability for the organization for that particular project, as well as it will ensure a better return on your investment. Project management will provide better control of scope changes. So again, students, I told you about those three parameters, and whenever we want to have a change in the scope of the project, we'll have to have a trade-off between those triple constraints, that is time, budget, that is cost, and the specification of the project. So these three parameters helps us to control the scope of the project. Project management makes the organization more efficient and effective through better organizational behavior principles. Now again students, this point is so important that project manager should have the leadership abilities and inspiring abilities so that they can be able to motivate the people towards the right direction which they want to achieve. So they will have to have a sort of behavioral principles to be implemented within the organization so that their project objectives can be optimally achieved. Okay, let's discuss some of the causes of the project failures. That what are the important causes why the projects fail actually. The customer's conditions of the satisfaction have not been negotiated. Now this is again very important. It is not always a good strategy that you always accept each and everything of your client. You should always have a sort of negotiation that what can be achieved and what cannot be achieved. So it is very important to have a sort of negotiation with your clients so that you may not have problems in future, and most of the projects fail due to this weak negotiation at the start of the project. Then the project no longer has a high priority. Again, as I discussed with you about the functional organizations, that the project may not sometime be the top priority for the organization, and their priority is actually being divided. So this may be the reason for the failure of the project. Then again, if there are two bosses or no one seems to be in charge, that may be a problem for the achievement of the project objectives. Sometimes this schedule is too optimistic, and we have so ideal parameters related to the cost, time, and especially the quality that may not be possible in the normal conditions. So the project manager should not be too much optimistic, but he should be realistic that what project objectives they can achieve and they will have to achieve. The project plan is not used to manage the project. Again students, I told you that project planning is the very important stage of any of the project life cycle. So if that stage is not properly being examined, then again that may be a cause for the project failure. So important is the project planning. Sufficient resources have not been committed. Again students, if the resources are not being provided and optimally utilized, then the project objectives may not be achieved. Project status is not monitored against the plan. As I told you that at the time of project planning, it is always important to make the different benchmarks in order to compare your future progress with these benchmarks, so that you may have the idea that in what direction you are going. So if you are not doing that, that may be the cause of project failure. No formal communication plan is in place. A good communication is so important for the success of any of the project. So if there is no formal and good communication plan is there, that again may be the cause of the project failure. The project has lost sight of its original goals. Every project should always have the desired accomplishments to be achieved, and again if you are getting lost out of these original goals, that may be the cause of project failure. The last but the most important points, students, there is no change management process in place. Again, as I told you that project management is not the set of the simple activities, and this is not the very simple and you'll have to apply the different change management practices throughout the life cycle of the project, so that you will be able to deal with the different changing environment accordingly. So this flexibility in responding to the changing environment and having a particular sort of change management process within the project, this is so important for the achievement of the project objectives. So if there is no change management process in place in the project, then that may be the cause of project failure. So students, this is the end of our today's lecture, and we discussed some very important points of project management. In our next class, we'll try to use some important techniques like PERT CPM and some other good tools of project management which can be used for better project management. Okay students, thank you very much for your patience. Be happy. Khuda Hafiz.